I I'm not a patient person. I don't know how everybody else waits like 5 or 10 minutes to start stream. I've been sitting here for half an hour. I want to start streaming already. How's my audio today? I hope that it's doing well. I hope that it's all right. I know last time it started off kind of crunchy, kind of weird, tinny. I don't know. But yeah, I hope it's doing well. How are you? How is everybody? I hope that you're doing well. Hey, Appa. I don't know if you're still here. I saw that you left that chat like maybe even a couple hours ago. And hey Tyler, how you doing? How you doing? Welcome to stream. Welcome to stream. It's been a while since we did a paper reading stream, so I'm pretty excited, honestly. I'm excited. It's been a minute. I think we did one on Halloween, but I don't really count that one because we stopped because it was just like that paper probably should have been a book rather than a paper. It wasn't really getting to the point and it didn't really feel like it ever would. Um, and then before that, I think the last one we read was before my semester started, before I semester, so that's been quite some time. We're almost at the end of the semester now. Oh man, but this was actually something that somebody I don't really know if requested is the right word for it, but somebody posted this in my channel in the VTheorem Discord and was like, hey, check out this paper. Oh, hey, Torg, how you doing? How you doing? Yeah, this has been all the talk. It actually came up at Thanksgiving dinner yesterday. One of my family members mentioned it at Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm like, you know what? I was planning on streaming that sometime this week. Might as well just get off my butt and do it. I nearly did it yesterday, but then I was like, it's still Thanksgiving here in the US. Maybe I shouldn't be streaming on Thanksgiving, but now it's the day after Thanksgiving, so it's fair game. It's fair game to read it. This is a pretty popular paper. It's been like making the rounds a little bit, and I scrolled through it a little bit on my phone yesterday just to get a quick glance at it, and like they have a picture of what it looked like. They have a picture of the guy in the Batman costume and everything as one of the figures in the paper. I'm excited. I'm very pumped about this particular paper. It looks like it's going to be a fun read. I think it's going to be a quick read, and it seems from what little I've read, it seems like really well and accessibly written. So I'm very pumped about that. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. I've also got I'm gonna try. I can't figure out how to get paint to capture on OBS, but I do have my Clip Studio over here in case I want to like I was thinking it might be fun to draw out the study design and stuff like that, or like write down like little notes. I don't think that that will make much sense here because the study design is like, as best as I can tell, the study design is literally just a t-test. It's literally just a control condition and a treatment condition. But you know, I thought it might be a fun thing to try to like do a little drawn commentary, illustrative stuff, and I have a much easier time explaining stuff when I'm able to like write stuff and draw stuff along. So I thought that would be a nice thing to have. And also it helps me think things through. Like one of the first steps I always take when I'm trying to design a new study is I just pull out a piece of paper and try and draw out the study design. It really helps me. Like one of the most vital things that I had in grad school was just a notebook and a pile of scrap paper that I had on me at all times so that I could just doodle stuff. So I need to find out a better setup for that. One day I'll get like a proper overlay and stuff and a proper setup. But for now, no. Okay. So this is, for those of you unaware, this is a paper. I was looking at the paper and it's meme gold. That sounds about right. I was talking about it with some other people, with the people at my family's Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah, the picture's pretty good. The picture is staged. It's not an actual picture, which I did appreciate. So they're not violating the privacy of their participants. Though I do wonder, like, I'm starting to wonder if based on this and then that Reddit controversy a while back, if some European ethics boards are more loosey-goosey with the rules than American ethics boards in terms of like consent and stuff. At least if it's taking place in a public space. Because like there was that Reddit one where there was a Swiss university, I think, where they actually did like experimental manipulation and stuff like that, studying misinformation on a subreddit without telling anyone, without getting any consent or anything like that. And then this one, I can't imagine that they got consent ahead of time to have these people participate in their study. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if like maybe ethics rules about getting receiving or about getting informed consent from participants are a bit different for getting participants in public spaces in European universities. That would be interesting if true, considering how strong EU privacy laws generally are. Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. Like, I'm not really sure, because the Swiss one, I would never be able to get that approved in my universe. For those of you unfamiliar with the Swiss one, basically, I think it was Swiss. What they did was they went on some subreddit. And what they did was they made a whole bunch of posts from like random users, or like they posted a whole bunch of posts from just like fake users. These were like accounts that they had created, and these posts often contained like misinformation and like supposedly the person's accounts of what happened and stuff like that. Oh, I'm drawing this out and I forgot to put it up. So they did this, and they posted a whole bunch of posts from fake accounts that were actually just the researchers posting, and these posts would have misinformation. And they did all of this, and they didn't tell anybody on the subreddit. And then like 3 months later, or many months later, after they'd finished writing the whole thing up, they finally sent a message, to the mods of the subreddit and said, hey, we did this as a study. We were messing around on your subreddit and posting things from like fake news from fake accounts on your subreddit to see how it would react to stuff. We're not going to tell you which accounts were the fake accounts or which posts were the ones with misinformation. Thank you for participating in our study. And they didn't even, like, I cannot emphasize how bad the IRB at my university would freak out if anybody did something. They would shut down all research at my university real fast if anyone tried that. But like, this was like, if you look at the manuscript and stuff for this study that they ran, apparently they said it was IRB approved, and they're like, yeah, we didn't do anything wrong. And I'm just sitting here like, holy shit, that is so deeply there was no consent, there was no debriefing. In terms of ethics of studying misinformation, there was no attempt to debunk the misinformation that they were actively spreading, and no attempt to even identify which bits were misinformation. It was, I'm like, I cannot, and they never actually informed the users that were interacting with these posts. They only informed the mods, and the mods were the ones who told the users, hey, this was a thing that happened. Like, words cannot describe how many ethical rules they violated in conducting this study that, at least as far as the ethics I was trained in, but like they kept being like, it's okay, it's fine, it's totally good. Like, and their ethics board apparently was totally fine about it. Hey, oh, Astral, no, we haven't really started reading the paper. Me when I purposely spread misinformation, but it's okay because it's psychology. It's not okay, though. A very important part of studying misinformation is debriefing your participants. Any ethics board that would approve that needs replacement. I agree, Torg. Like, it was screwy, and that's why I'm kind of a little, well, we'll have to read the methods of this paper to see what's going on, but from what little I know about it, I'm wondering if they did get informed consent from participants before participating, and I'm not sure how they would have done that. But this one doesn't seem nearly, like, outside of the lack of informed consent that I'm assuming, which again, maybe they somehow did get informed consent, this overall seems considerably more ethical than the Reddit one that I was just describing. This one isn't obviously harmful on the face of it. Yeah, it's not obviously harmful on the face of it. It's not like actively spreading misinformation. I'm not sure if they debriefed people after the fact, but like, I don't think that this one sounds nearly as worrying as that one. I was just thinking, like, it is an interesting thing that, like, I've now stumbled across 2 high-profile studies from European researchers that may or may not have gotten informed consent from the participants. I know, like, you can get waivers of consent. It is possible to get waivers of consent, but it's tricky. I've never done that myself, I don't think. Anyway, let's start reading. Let's finally figure this out. So this is titled Unexpected Events in Prosocial Behavior. Prosocial, by the way, in this context just means, like, helping behavior. behavior broadly. I think that's kind of probably simplifying it too much a bit, but it's just like helping behavior. And they're calling it the Batman effect, which I think is lovely. I'll talk a little bit more. Like, I don't think it's Batman specifically, and I think that they would agree with me that it's not Batman specifically, but I just think it's fun. I think that they know that they have done a silly, fun study, and I think I like that they're leaning into it. You know? Why not? Why not do it? Why not? All right, so let's start it on the abstract. Let's see what their overall summary is. Prosocial behavior, the act of helping others, hey, look at me go, is essential to social life, yet spontaneous environmental triggers for such behavior remain underexplored. Actually, you know what I should do? Before I get into this, I want to talk about the 5-step model of helping, which I think it was that Latan and Darley who did that? Because I think this is very relevant to the paper that we're about to read. So there's this thing called the 5-stage model of helping. And this was a theoretical model of like the steps that people have to go through when they provide help to somebody else, like the steps that lead up to them helping. And I think the people who did this are, I'm definitely mispronouncing, Latane and Darley. I think this is from the 60s. So the 6 steps of helping, or the 5 steps of helping are: 1, you have to notice that there's an emergency or some situation that needs help. Step 2, you have to yeah, sorry, we're doing it. A sick thumbnail, thanks, fine. It's bird. Hey, Eggy, how you doing? Okay, so 5-stage model of helping. First, you need to notice there's an emergency. 2, you need to interpret it as an emergency. Interpret. You know what? I can just type this bit. There's no reason I can't type this bit. Okay. So, 5-stage model of helping. Oh, I hope you're having fun, Eggy. Let's... And Darley. I don't know how to do this in the typing bit, so you know what I'm gonna do? There you go. Okay, so the 5 steps of helping. 1, step 1 is notice there's a problem. Step 2, interpret it as a problem. So like, it's totally possible. This happens a lot because I live near a big city and like I work in the city. So I will walk past people all the time who maybe are lying on a bench or like lying on some stairs or something. And it's not always immediately clear to me whether they're lying down because they need medical intervention or whether they're lying down because they're just tired and, you know, getting some rest or something like that, right? So it's possible to notice that there is potentially somebody who needs help without actually realizing that they need help. Or it's also, of course, possible to think somebody needs help when actually they don't, you know? Step 3 was take responsibility for helping. So you've noticed there's a problem, you've interpreted it as a problem, and then you've taken responsibility for helping the person who has the problem. Step 4 is figure out how to help. So you create a plan. Either maybe if you know how to help, you can just go and help them. Like if this person looks like they need CPR or something and you know how to do CPR, you can just go and give them CPR. But let's say this person obviously needs medical intervention, but you don't know how to do that. Then maybe your method of helping is like calling 911 or something like that. And then 5 is sort of like do the actual help. And there's like some cost-benefit analysis stuff going on here. So that's like the 5-stage model of helping, and I'm probably going to refer to it a decent amount while we're going through this paper, especially I get the feeling that particularly relevant for this paper is going to be step 1. I think step 1 is the big one where this paper is going to be. Anyway, okay, sorry, I tangented a little. Let's actually go back to the paper and start reading. I just wanted to like, I'm gonna bring this up. I want to make sure that all of you know what I'm talking about when I bring this up. All right. Okay. Oh no, I clicked a thing I didn't mean to. Okay. So, this study tested whether an unexpected event, such as the presence of a person dressed as Batman, this is specifically the unexpected event they chose, and that's why they get to call it the Batman effect, could increase prosocial behavior by disrupting routine and enhancing attention to the present moment. So, specifically in this 5-step model of helping, have y'all heard of the bystander effect? Like, I know the bystander effect's like one of the more famous psychological effects, but maybe I should talk about it anyway. I don't know. The bystander effect is like this finding that the more people... Oh, good. Astral. All right. But yeah. Oh, hey, Bobo. How you doing? Oh, so it isn't metaphorical. There's a literal Batman. Yes, it's a literal Batman. Yeah, familiar? Okay, yeah. Just in case, just as like a quick summary, like the bystander effect, the more people there are around, the more responsibility for helping kind of diffuses across the crowd, and the less likely any one person is to help. My issue with the focus on Batman is him being a heroic figure makes it sound like it could be step 3. I agree, Torg. I agree. Like, when I first heard about this paper, I thought that it was going to focus on step 3. Like, oh, it's Batman, he's a heroic figure, what would Batman do kind of deal. But, I think after I've skimmed through it and like looked at, especially when they talk about in the paper, the way they're framing it as enhancing attention to the present moment, like I'm pretty sure they're going to be focusing on step 1, because another reason why like people don't receive help. Actually, maybe I shouldn't be referring to the bystander effect. I think I'm thinking more about the Good Samaritan study. The Good Samaritan study was a study that found basically one of the more common reasons why people don't provide help is because they simply do not notice that somebody needs help. Like, they don't provide help because they don't even realize that somebody needs help. And that's why I think the fact that they're focusing on enhancing attention in the abstract means that they're focusing on step 1 of this 5-stage model of helping. It's not necessarily that it's Batman in particular, it's that something unusual happened which made people start paying attention to the things around them. Though I think the fact that it is Batman in particular does carry some extra baggage in terms of associating with a heroic figure that helps others. But they probably like could have just as easily, based on what I think they're trying to get at, used like a guy in a gorilla suit or something. I feel like there being a Batman's gonna swallow all my attention. That's fair. But let's keep reading. There was an interesting thing that I like glanced at in the abstract that I think is gonna be like put an interesting twist on this. Oh, hey guy, how you doing? Good example. Most drowning happen when people are around, but they're not even detected nonetheless. Yeah. I've heard that when people drown, oftentimes, like, you expect them to be splashing around and yelling, but apparently it's a pretty quiet thing. Like, there are many, many cases, I would say, where people simply do not notice that somebody needs help. Or, like, just misattribute. There's this story that my undergraduate social psychology professor always used to tell, that, like, you know, sometimes you'll just hear a crash in a room, and maybe you'll, like, look around, but you might not really investigate the cause of it, as long as it doesn't seem like there's, like, an immediate threat to your safety or something like that. But he said he was at a talk at a social psychology conference, and there was a crash in the back of the room, and because it was full of social psychologists who all knew about the bystander effect, everybody rushed to try and help whatever had happened. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Let's at least I'm being educational, though, while I'm off track. I'll take it. Okay, let's keep going. We conducted a quasi-experimental field study. So this is quasi-experimental because they do have 2 conditions. They have a treatment condition and a control condition. However, they are not randomly assigning people. Psychologist very helpful, naruhodo. I'm not sure if that's actually true. But at least in this particular case, I do think awareness of... I'm not sure if there's data on this. I would love to see. But I think that awareness of the bystander effect's existence does make you a little less likely to be susceptible to the bystander effect, but that's like a personal hypothesis. Don't know if it's actually true. Okay. So quasi-experimental because they're not randomly assigning people to condition. Like, they do have conditions, and they're randomly choosing which train ride gets which condition, but the participants themselves are the ones who chose which train they got on and which car of the train they got on. So participants aren't randomly assigned a condition, which makes this quasi-experimental rather than a true experiment. On the Milan Metro, so this was done in Milan, observing 138 rides. So they have 138 trials. In the control condition, a female experimenter, so this is what we call a confederate, somebody who's in on the study but is pretending to be a normal human being just going about their day. Appearing pregnant, so she wasn't actually pregnant. They didn't actually get a pregnant woman to do this. They just dressed her up. Boarded the train with an observer. So presumably the observer is the person who's like noting down all this stuff. In the experimental condition, an additional experimenter dressed as Batman entered from another door. What I think is interesting about this is that Batman does not enter through the same door the pregnant woman does. So it's not that Batman's presence is drawing attention to the pregnant woman because the person dressed as Batman is next to the pregnant woman. The person dressed as Batman is entering through a different door, and I don't know if you've like ridden trains before. But, so like, for those of you who haven't ridden trains before, I ride trains a lot for, like, work and stuff. Let me see. I feel like I should know if there's a keyboard shortcut for that. Okay, so a typical train car, the doors aren't closed, exactly, yeah. Like, a typical train car looks like this. Like, roughly. And then you'll have doors, you'll have two sets of doors on each side, usually. There's, like, doors here, and doors here, and here, and usually only one set opens at a time. You'll have like the platform here. And in that case, if the platform's on this side, only the doors on this side of the car will be opening. And typically, like, you know, there's a bunch of like seats in between, there's seats, and then, you know, there's people everywhere. So if somebody comes in this door and somebody comes in this door, most of the people on the train are going to be in the middle, so they can't really look at people who are coming in through both doors at exactly the same time. So I think that's really notable, is that the woman is coming in through one door, and the guy dressed as Batman is coming in through another door, so people are not seeing these two people simultaneously. It's not like the woman is not necessarily getting attention because she's with Batman, they're on opposite sides of the train car. Passengers were significantly more likely to offer their seat when Batman was present, 67.21% versus 37.66%. And this is an odds ratio, OR of 3.393. Odds ratios are like, okay, so I don't actually know too much about odds ratios, but I'm going to try and explain this a bit. So the way that odds ratios work is odds ratios are when you're testing something with a binary outcome. Like, in this case, the binary outcome is they either give up their seat or they do not give up their seat. It's like yes, no, 0, 1. If an odds ratio is between 0 and 1, that indicates that it becomes less likely that the event will happen. 6 what again? I don't know where no. Hey, that one. Hey, that one. I'm not gonna... 67, 67, 67. Tyler, I'm gonna bite you. Fine. Okay. All right, everybody, are you ready? Get the clipping ready. Okay? I'm gonna give the people what they want. 6, 7. Yay, we did it. We did the meme. Yay. Now I can move on with describing what odds ratios are. Shut up, fine. I'm so sorry to the authors if they discover this VOD. I'm sorry that I did the funny numbers while I was reading your paper. I'm sorry. Please don't be upset. I think it's a good anyway. Okay, so odds ratios, one is like nothing. That's just the likelihood of the thing happening. If your odds ratio is 1, that generally indicates that there's no difference. Like people in one condition are no more likely to give up their seat than people in the other. An odds ratio of 0 means that Batman being there made it less likely that people would give up their seat. And an odds ratio of, say, 2, and this is the part where I might be wrong. I think like an odds ratio of 2 would be like they're twice as likely to give up their seat. Or like roughly. I'm really bad at odds ratios. But essentially, if odds ratios are greater than 1, that means the likelihood of the outcome increased. And in this case, the outcome is changing the seat. I guess the main point that I'm trying to make is this odds ratio. Oh, wow, I was drawing that out and I didn't have it up the whole time. Oops. This odds ratio of 3.393, that's a pretty big odds ratio. Like, that's a pretty big effect size. People were, and like you can see this in the percentage, that increased the likelihood that people were going to get out of their seats by almost 30%. Like, that's a pretty big change for social psychology, especially in something as messy as like actual train rides, you know, like an actual train in the actual world. That's kind of a big deal. Back from clipping and my chat menu being banished to some show. Oh, you didn't have to actually clip that, Astral. You really didn't. Okay, anyway. Notably, 44% of those who offered their seat in the experimental condition reported not seeing Batman. See, this is what I think is so interesting about it. I don't think it had to be Batman. I don't think it had to be Batman at all. I think the fact that it was Batman might have just maybe, hey, Maury, how you doing? But I think the fact that they have it being Batman had actually nothing to do with the helping behavior, or at least maybe it had something to do, but like 44% of the people who offered their seat did not notice Batman. And like, they didn't notice Batman at all, which that's why I think this isn't so much the taking responsibility for helping step. It could have been Mothman. It's true. It could have been a Mothman. It could have been me. That's why I think it's not step 3, though. It's not that people are seeing Batman and going, oh, what would Batman do? I need to help. It's that's why I think it's step 1. That's why I think it's step 1. They're noticing something's happening. They didn't necessarily notice Batman or did not notice Batman, but they noticed something was happening. What's the location of this train? This train is in Milan, the Milan Metro. I've never been there. I don't know much about that. Milan is like a major city in like what, Italy? Yeah, big city in Italy. The economic capital of Italy. So, pretty busy place, I imagine. Would have been easier to measure a brighter color guy like Spider-Man. That's also true. Maybe I want to see them do this, like, replicate this finding with all kinds of weird costumes. I want, like, them to get people on the train wearing one of those inflatable T-Rex costumes. I want to see them try this in NYC. I would love to see them try this in NYC, Eggy. Not measure, notice. Oopsie. You're fine, Maury. I want to see them try this in many major cities across the world. They just got to be really careful to make sure that it's not like when there's like an anime or furry or Santa convention in town or something like that, because then this would just fade into the background. But I do wonder if NYC has enough like performers and stuff riding public transit that this wouldn't be as notable. Maybe it's one of the 17 Milans in America. You know, that didn't occur to me, but I'm kind of like, based on the last names of a lot of these people. Here, let's see. Francesco, yeah, see, Milan, Italy, there you go. Inflatable T-Rex is the hero we deserve, so true, Torg. I'm so glad to have my assumptions validated. Right? And indeed, the lead author is at a university in Milan, Italy. Milan, Italy, Milan, Italy, Milan, Italy, Milan, Italy, Milan, Italy, Milan, Italy. Milan, Italy. All of them are Milan. Oh, wait, no, absolutely do this when there's an anime convention in town. That would actually be a really good control condition now that I think about it, because I have some problems with their control condition. Like, not big problems. I don't think it's a major problem, but like, let the bystanders bring their own costumes. No, that's true. I think that would actually be a really great control condition if the mechanism that they're talking about here is attention. Like, if the mechanism is attention, like something unusual happened, now the car's in a stir, and now everybody's actually paying attention to their surroundings instead of just staring at their phone. If you're in a car where there's only one cosplayer, that's something to be noticed. If you're in a car full of cosplayers during a weekend that's full of cosplayers, then maybe it's not noticeable. Is it Milan, 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 Italy, or Milan, Milan, Italy, or Milan, Italy? Yes. The answer to your question, Astral, is yes. Right, anyway. These findings suggest that unexpected events can promote prosociality even without conscious awareness. So unexpected events, in this case Batman, without conscious awareness is calling out this 44% of the people didn't notice Batman. With the implications for encouraging kindness in public settings, I really want to like, I think I'm going to start teaching about this in my class. An entire train worth of pit bulls. Is this a reference to something? Because if it is a reference to something, Bobo, now you are contractually obligated to send me the thing. I want to see the train full of pitbull. Please. Okay. Introduction. Prosocial behavior, voluntary actions that benefit others. So I'm just going to broadly call that helping. I know that things like donating to charity and stuff like that would be also considered prosocial behavior, and maybe that's not always perceived as helping. I think, though, helping is like a more accessible word for this. It might not be the most precise way to refer to it, but I think it's more like readily understandable to like people who aren't totally psychology brain rotted, or however you want to put it. Has profound implications for blah, blah, blah. Here's your big like general statement at the start of the paper, like, this is why you should give a shit, you know. These behaviors can stem from a variety of motivations, ranging from empathy-driven altruism to adherence to social norms, or even egoistic goals like guilt reduction. That's another funny thing about the social psychology of helping. There's this theory of why people help others called social exchange theory. And social exchange theory treats helping as if it's like an entirely a selfish thing, but its definition of being selfish is super broad. And like, I agree with it, but like the fact that like they consider if you help somebody because you're afraid that you'll feel bad that you didn't help them in a few hours or a few days or a few years, that helping is still from a selfish motive because you weren't doing it because of them. You were doing it to reduce your own sense of guilt, which I think is a really interesting mindset. And like, to some extent, I kind of agree with that. But how likely are people to give up their seat after Spider-Man stops their runaway train, revealing his identity in the bars? I feel like if the train was run away, they have more important things to do than give up. I think everybody's giving up their seat because they probably want to get out of the train at that point. Like, assuming the train is already stopped and it's no longer barreling towards, the broken bridge or whatever it was. I don't remember that movie. Although much of the literature focuses on internal motivations for prosociality, it's well established that contextual factors do matter. Bystander research has demonstrated that situational features can substantially shape helping behavior. For example, like how many people there are at the place. Likewise, cues associated with romantic love have been shown to promote prosocial responses. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that. Like, I do know that people who are attractive are more likely to receive help than people who are unattractive. But I wasn't aware of the romantic love, though I guess that makes sense. Like, especially if it's along those lines. If we define attractiveness broadly, if you are attracted to somebody, you're more likely to help them kind of deal. And not just physical attraction, I'm guessing. Anyway, building on findings, most recent studies have examined how specific environmental triggers may directly encourage prosocial actions. In particular, the focus of the study is on events that break the monotony of daily life, such as unexpected and novel occurrences, which may serve as catalysts for prosocial behaviors by fostering mindfulness and heightened awareness of the present moment. Novel and unexpected can, in fact, trigger the cognitive appraisal of one's surroundings, such as behavioral intentions. So, this is why I really like this. So, I don't know about you. How many of you like take public transit or like, especially like trains and stuff like that in the current day? Like, is that a thing that y'all do to get to work? Or is that just me? Because like, I like to ride the train. I take the train to work. Every day. You're phrasing it nice. Man, I wish. Yeah, I do, but it's usually buses. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so you're on the train. These are your train seats or whatever. You got your lovely little train windows. And then you've got your grody train floor. I mostly do bus and subway, but I walk a lot. Nice. That's good for your health. I take train and I walk a decent amount. So, like, not in my town, unavailable when I was in DC. Yeah, like, I love public transit, but there's a lot of places in the US where there just simply is not enough public transit. Or it's just, like, really far away or whatever. Anyway, the typical view on the train is you've got, like, somebody looking at their phone. You've got somebody having the loudest speakerphone conversation you've ever heard. You've got this person who's just drooling and sleeping. They haven't been conscious in 12 years. You've got, like, this person who is, like, somehow, for some reason, they're on their laptop on the train, which, bold move, may I say. I would not recommend using your laptop on the train. But, like, nobody's paying attention. Nobody on the train is paying attention to anything at any given time. Like, it could be, like, the freaking apocalypse out here, you know? Tag yourself. Could be the apocalypse. The world is burning down outside, and nobody's paying attention. I will tell you, this is me. That's me on my phone. One, yeah. If you have a table, you can use it, yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. Tag yourself. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Nice. I'm 1. I'm 1 too. Or I'm 1 as well. I'm also 1. If you are 2, I hate you. If you are 2, I hate you so much. Hi, Alex, how you doing? We're doing tag yourself right now on public transit. I stare out the window. Hey, Warpy, how you doing? I stare out the window sometimes too. I know exactly where on my commute to work I have to look out the window to see the doggy daycare. 1 is the closest, but usually I'm listening to a podcast or looking at my feet or out the window. Fair, yeah. Anyway, the main point of this hideous doodle is that when you're on the train, most people who are on a train are, like, not paying attention to things that are going around them. They are just so zoned in on, like, their phone or their book or the phone call that they're having or whatever it is. They are not paying all attention to what is happening around them. Or maybe they're looking out the window. Whatever it is. The lack of awareness, like, I don't know about you, but, like, when I'm on the train, especially because I've been making the same commute for a very long time now, when I'm on the train, I'm in, like, the most intense flow state ever. I'm just, maybe flow state isn't the right word for it, but I am so locked in on the stuff that I'm, like, whatever I'm looking at. Like, I'm very much at the point where I have that thing where I'm so locked in that, like, my brain is totally out of focus. Anything could happen on that train, and I would not notice. I'm just staring so hard at my phone the entire time. I'm, like, reading something or something, and then I'm very, very lucky that I've been taking the same commute for so long that when the train calls my stop, suddenly my brain, it's like the cocktail party effect. It's like that thing where, like, you're in a busy room and suddenly you hear somebody's name or somebody call your name from across the room even though you weren't listening. That's me, except with the train station. POV Mylan watching Skibbity Toilet. Do I look like I have the kind of money that I need to watch videos on data? No. I will proudly admit that I am on AO3. I am on AO3. Or sometimes I am reading my friend and partner's creative writing on Google Docs. I'm reading my stories like a true Kim Dokja. I'm reading my little stories on the train. And if anything happens around me, I'm probably not aware of it unless it is the announcer saying that it's my stop. Any good stories recently? Oh, that's a great question. Omniscient Reader's viewpoint, as per usual, is incredible. I need to catch up on Apothecary Diaries. AO3 is based, AO3 is so based. Anyway, where were we? The point I'm trying to make is that people are not paying attention when they are on the train. They are all in their own little worlds. Anything could be happening and they do not notice. I'm really liking this paper. It is so nice and short and sweet. Okay. Okay. Mindfulness, typically cultivated through deliberate practices, is categorized by non-judgmental attention to the present moment, which a lot of people on the train are not engaging in. In fact, I In the rare times I have been mindful or engaged with the present moment on the train, it is usually because I think that I am in imminent danger, and frankly, I would really rather not be mindful on the train, because that usually means something's wrong. I read that like 2 years ago, I think, might want to pick it back up. I'm a huge fan. I'm a big fan. I would recommend it. And like the novels are getting translated into English like officially now. I'm only reading the official English translation. Like something support authors and stuff. And also I want to like stretch it out. I don't want to binge it or anything, so anyway, where were we? However, certain situational triggers, such as unexpected events, may similarly engage mindful awareness, directing attention away from habitual automatic responses. For example, for me, my habitual automatic response to riding on the train is, I am reading the things on my phone. I am reading about the little characters in my phone. But if something weird and unexpected happens, it will draw my attention to the rest of the train, and I will no longer be paying attention to my phone, I think is kind of the idea. The study investigates the hypothesis that unexpected events, such as the presence of a person in a superhero costume on public transportation or an unusual interruption in a classroom setting, can promote hope. Do they do this too? I wonder if they do this too. Or is that like a future direction or something? Or is this just an example of a potential other application for this? Because usually what I've found is that when there's an unexpected thing in a classroom setting, well, I don't know. I'm not usually measuring prosocial behavior, but it can be hard to get the class back on track. Sometimes weird stuff happens. Did I ever tell you about the time that somebody got arrested in the middle of my lecture? I was giving a lecture and somebody got arrested in the middle of my lecture hall. That was a weird moment. Like, how do I does Batman visit classrooms? Maybe. So could technically have someone dressed up as a giant orange and it would have the same impact? That's kind of what I'm thinking, Bobo. Like, I'm thinking it could be anything. And I beg your pardon. Yeah. Unexpected things in classroom settings are very different between America and Milan. Possibly. No, somebody got arrested in my classroom. I was telling it to, like, the other professors who'd been teaching a lot longer than me, and I'm like, because I kind of assumed they had similar experiences, and they all looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Time to dress as a giant orange for science. That's another weird story I have. One time when I was teaching a final exam, or like I was proctoring a final exam, somebody just like opened the door to the lecture hall and peeked their head in, looked around, and then left. But what was notable is that the person who peeked their head in was dressed head to toe in a gorilla costume. College is weird. And I love it. I love it. My college isn't as weird as the place where I went to undergrad, which makes me sad, but weird stuff still happens, and I love it. Oh, very normal behavior. It was very funny. Bigfoot came by to say hi to a fellow cryptid. It's true! Unfortunately, I missed Bigfoot because I was so focused on making sure none of the cheating in one of the students. Sorry, wrong psych file. Actually, no, Tori. Because, like, one of the first things that I teach in that class is that famous study of, like, selective attention with the video, with the gorilla in it, or the guy dressed as a gorilla in it. And I'm 50-50 on whether that was just some bizarre coincidence or if it was one of my students playing a prank. Because we do watch a video at the start of the semester involving people not noticing a man in a gorilla costume. So it would have been very appropriate. Oh man. And okay. Let's get back to focus. The faster we read this paper, the faster I can get back to playing Minecraft and Uma Musume. Oh my god, that's so on the nose, right? It was so good. The one where the people are passing the ball around. Exactly, Tyler. Exactly. It was that. Like that. I showed them that video at the start of the semester, and then somebody shows up to the final in a gorilla costume. I know I want to play more Minecraft. I need an EXP farm, but anyway. Okay, let's put Minecraft aside. Minecraft can wait until Minecraft Mondays as far as stream is concerned, but I will definitely be playing between then and now. And maybe on Sunday too, for reasons that you may hear about soon. Anyway. Okay. If you want to play Minecraft, just stream it now. You know what? Like, I am increasingly weighing doing a Minecraft, like, Ask a Psychologist stream, except instead of last time where I just sit there and answer questions, I'm fishing in Minecraft while I answer questions. But Minecraft is for Twitch. Games are on Twitch, academic stuff is on the YouTube. So we're not going to do that right now. Do the split screen. One part is the papers, the other is Minecraft. That just feels like a brain rot channel. I'm not gonna lie, I did consider that, but I'm like, this feels a little too Subway Surfers for me. Oh no. We'd never finish the paper either. That would be so tempting. No, we're gonna keep reading, okay? We're gonna keep reading. Genuinely, I had a good time chatting during lumberjacking. I think there's something nice about Q&A with Minecraft in the background. Yeah, I really like that. So I'm definitely planning on doing one in the future. Let me see you fish for like 4 hours? Sure. Not tonight, but at some point in the future. Sure. Maybe late next month. We'll see. New Year's stream where I fish in Minecraft for 4 hours. Hey, Water Knight, how you doing? Paper reading brain rot stream? Exactly. Let me keep reading. Proceeds to read. Shut up, Tyler. Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. Drawing on theories of mindfulness and behavioral disruption, we propose that such events momentarily... We aim to assess whether these disruptions could foster prosocial behaviors in an ecological environment, such as offering a seat to a pregnant woman on public transit. This is neat, too, because it's like high in environmental validity. They're actually out in the world doing this on a real train. By exploring the intersection of mindfulness, novelty, and prosocial behavior, our findings could inform strategies to promote altruistic behaviors in daily life, from public art installations to innovative social campaigns. So basically, getting people to pay attention to their environment, which may increase prosocial behavior. Torg, I'm tired. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Based on these considerations, we hypothesized that the presence of an unexpected event, a person dressed as Batman, would increase the likelihood that passengers offer their seat to a pregnant woman compared to the control condition without Batman. It's so fun to me because it sounds like such a silly hypothesis, but then you look at the effect size. You look at that effect size and you're like, holy cow, they really did it. All right, let's... Oh, we're going to save the picture. Save the picture. The study was conducted in the Milan underground metro system using a quasi-experimental design with 2 conditions. In the control condition, okay, I'm gonna draw this bit out as well. Okay. In the control condition, mirrored a female experimenter pretending to be pregnant with a prosthetic belly. Boarded the metro alongside a non-interacting observer. So here's our observer, and so here's our pregnant lady, and here's our observer. I'm gonna give the observer a pen and a clipboard. Then in the experimental condition, it mirrored the control, but with an additional element, another experimenter. So we've also got the pregnant lady, we've also got the observer we've got the observer who probably isn't actually using a clipboard. They're probably using like a phone app or something like that. And then we have Batman. They would surely be keeping up the ante. It's the first time seeing Batman to break my attention, but the 10th, yeah, they'd have to keep switching it up. For ethical reasons, the full mask was omitted to avoid potentially scaring passengers. Okay, that's fair. So the Batman wasn't actually, this doodle is why you wanted to read the paper, isn't it? No, but I'm actually really liking having access to the doodle thing. I think this might be like a recurring thing now. So they didn't actually have Batman wear the mask because they were worried it might scare people. So Batman wasn't holding the mask, actually. There's no, for ethical reasons, a full mask covering the upper face was omitted to avoid potentially scaring passengers. The costume nevertheless include the logo, cape, pointed cowl, making it easy to recognize. The doodles are helpful ammo. I'm glad. I really like the doodles. I'm genuinely fond of them. I think they're gonna... I would like to find a better way to do it than just using my art program, but I think they're gonna be a staple of paper reading streams from here on out. All right. Okay, so here is our picture. Here is the pregnant woman, or well, the woman who is allegedly pregnant. Never stop doodling. Never, never. And here is our Batman costume, and he is not wearing the mask, he is holding the mask for the sake of not scaring the civilians by making them think something weird is up. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Bobo, by the way. I just looked. Thank you, Bobo, for sending me the thing. Okay, so here's our lovely picture. Faces are blurred out. Good to keep anonymity. Here we go. Observers use an online forum on Qualtrics suite. Okay, Qualtrics, for those of you who aren't familiar with Qualtrics is a common online survey platform. That means like it's a website that you can use to make surveys. Super common in research, just like research commonly uses Qualtrics to do surveys, because it can do a lot more than just like a Google form or SurveyMonkey. It's like a lot more flexible than that. Not wearing the mask. This is why no one noticed. Maybe. It sounds like people there was at least a stir caused, even if people didn't notice. Not save them by making them think something is weird. Dr. Batman is getting onto my train. Something is definitely weird. That's true. I think it's like the mask. Like when people see somebody wearing a mask, especially a mask that intentionally covers their face, it can be kind of weird, like creepy. Like we've gotten to the point where we've normalized like lower face masks to an extent. That's no longer weird or creepy. But like if somebody's hiding their eyes in addition to that, that gets kind of weird. I'm like imagining like a Zorro mask almost. That's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. A Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Anyway, I think it's just like this person isn't trying to hide their face. Like when somebody's trying to hide their face, I think it kind of sets off alarm bells. Like especially if they're trying to hide their eyes. But in this case, they're like, this person isn't hiding their eyes. It's fine. You're good. And Batman with a Batman themed N95 mask, right? I know like, and I still see this to an extent, but like cosplayers have, especially when masks were required at conventions, cosplayers would like create really cool masks for cosplays. Like I had a friend who was cosplaying Leo from Promare, and they made like a black face mask that was like totally N95 compliant with like the Promare flames on it, and it was really cool looking. It was really neat. Anyway, where were we? Let's keep going. Okay. To record whether one or more seated passengers offered their seat to the ostensibly pregnant woman. Oh, that's right. For those of you unfamiliar with trains, there's something else I should explain. Is it this? No. Okay. So here's our train, right? There are certain seats on trains. I guess I've been desensitized to some form of PPE because some of them cover your lower face, but some cover all of it. Oh, that's fair. But you can probably at least still see the face, right? Anyway. Okay, so like usually some of the chairs on the train, the ones that I'm marking out in red here, they're usually like the ones that are immediately adjacent to the doors. And I've seen this in every country I've ridden trains in. These are called priority seats, or like, they'll be called priority seats, they'll be called like accessible seats, they have various names. But the idea is these seats are specifically reserved for people with disabilities or medical conditions that make it more difficult for them to move. Oh, can't see you move. Oh, oops, I forgot to put it up. Sorry, my bad. Thank you. There we go. Okay, so these red seats here, they are ones that are specifically reserved for people who have like medical conditions or disabilities or things like that make it harder for them to move. But of course, a lot of people will just like, because these seats, of course, like many accessible things, are bigger and like roomier, and they're also right by the door. So they're in pretty high demand. So like people, whether they need them or not, will just sit in these seats, you know? And the idea is you're not technically forbidden from sitting there if you don't need the seat, but the thought is if you do sit there and you do not need the seat, then it is your obligation to get out of the priority seat and give it to somebody, if somebody who comes on does need the seat. Like if somebody comes on and they're like, hey, I need to sit there, or like, hey, I have a disability, I want to sit there, or whatever. In Japan, they had a really cool system where like because, you know, not all disabilities are visible. So not everybody who needs these seats is like obviously visibly needs the seat. So they would have like these little sort of like keychain things that they would put on their bag or something that would indicate, hey, I have some sort of like invisible condition or whatever. And therefore I need the priority seating, so that people didn't have to like, you know, guess or whatever. But either way, people who are pregnant they are one of the categories that is supposed to have priority access to these seats. You have lanyards? Oh, that's nice. And we need something like that. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a privacy concern too, depending on how the person feels about it, but it would be nice to have something like that, I think, if people were up for it. I guess pros and cons, you know, pros and cons. Anyway, yeah. Oops, I accidentally hid my mic. The idea here is that people should be giving up the seats when there's a pregnant woman, but a lot of the time people just won't, for whatever reason. Okay. So when they did give up the seat, observers conducted a brief follow-up interview to the passenger asking about their reasons for giving up their seat and, in the experimental condition, whether they had seen Batman. This is what we call a manipulation check. Did people actually notice your manipulation? What is it, Mr. Kitty? I'm sorry, I'm being yelled at. I'm being yelled at by a nobleman. A nobleman is yelling at me. He's trying to get attention. It's because he knows that it's going to be time for him to be fed soon. But it's not time quite yet. It's not time quite yet, Mr. Nobleman. Okay. Both conditions were conducted simultaneously. I am kind of sad that they didn't do a follow-up interview with people who didn't give up their seat, but all right. Would they notice if Mr. Kibty came on the train? Maybe. Cat noise. Could you hear the cat noise? He's not yelling now, but I'm kind of curious if you could hear it. Because he is a loud man. Imagine being randomly stopped and asked if you saw Batman. I would spend the rest of the day there. I'm pretty sure this follow-up interview was like debriefing. Like, they probably also explained the purpose of the study and stuff then. At least that's what I think ethically generally is supposed to happen. Oh, yes, he's so good, isn't he? He's lovely. This kitty. Okay. Both conditions were conducted simultaneously to avoid possible confounds deriving from time and location. So that's nice. So I think what they're saying here is that what happened is so, you know, you have a train. You got a train, and that train has a bunch of cars. And so I think when they're saying to avoid confounds so confounds are things other than your independent variable that could influence your outcome. So what they're saying is like maybe people at the, oh, right, shoot. That's what I've got to get used to. Okay. So they're saying that maybe people at different times of the day would be more or less likely to give up their seat, and it would be a problem for example, if they ran the control condition in the morning and the experimental condition in the afternoon, because maybe people who ride the train in the afternoon are different than people in the morning. Maybe it's a different demographic, or maybe it's just people are more tired in the afternoon and therefore less willing to give up their seat. But they avoid this by saying, we're going to take the same train. This is like the same train, and we're just going to like have our crew who's doing the experimental manipulation go into one train car, and our crew who's doing the control condition go into another train car. So it's people who are riding the same train, or the same train at the same time of day, the same train line, all that stuff. So they're at least controlling for that by having these two things happen simultaneously. And probably the train is long enough that people don't notice that there's like two pregnant ones. Like, these people are probably on like completely opposite ends of the platform. Whoa, sorry, Mr. Kitty. You okay? Mr. Man? He wants to play, so I'm like trying to play with him with one arm, and then... Oh, he's so cute though. He's a good kitty. Where were we? Focusing in. Mr. Kitty. Good man. We hear him? Oh, good. Waiting for the reveal that people in the front car are more likely to give up priorities. That is true. I would argue that there are differences in the type of people who ride closer to the front and closer to the back of the train. Well, at least like where I'm from, that's a thing that people consider, how far they are to the front to the back of the train. And there's some expectations of different behavior depending on where you are in the train, or like different demographics or types of people, depending on where they're sitting in the train. But I don't know if that's true there. Playing with your pet with one arm is the pet owner experience. It's true. Go play. Mr. Kitty is more important than all of you, no offense. But, oh, you slow blinked at me. I love this cat. I love this cat. Guys, I have the best cat in the world, in case you weren't aware. He is the most superior cat. He is so cute right now. I'm sorry, I need to take a picture. This is so unprofessional of me. You are so cute, Al. You're so cute, little Soma. I love you. Shave the kitty. No! 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 It's impossible. This is impossible. I'm sorry, I'm gonna send Sai the picture of the cat. It's important to me that Sai sees the cat. Okay. Where were we? Cattiest cat that ever catted. True. Okay. Understandable. I too have the best cat in the world and I've spent all day with my... Oh, I hope Mr. Floofy Pants is doing well. Please tell me all the updates about Mr. Floofy Pants if you want to. I'm always happy to hear about the cats. Two research teams positioned in different cars of the trains and on different areas of platforms, ensuring they remained out of sight from one another. Good. For an observation to be considered valid, all seats in the wagon had to be occupied. So the idea here is that they had to make sure that all seats in each train car were occupied, which means that people couldn't just say, well, the pregnant woman can get, like, there's other seats available, so clearly she could sit somewhere else. They're not allowing people the possibility of, like, plausible alternatives to giving up their seat. And no more than 5 people could be standing between the seats. Maybe this one's for visibility? Had a reasonable chance of noticing both the pregnant woman and Batman. I like how they're no longer referring to it, like, I know it's for brevity, but it just makes me so happy that they're just referring to the guy in the costume as Batman now. Congratulations, you are now Batman. Deputized to Batman for the purposes of scientific study. Each observation session lasted one stop, approximately 2 to 4 minutes, and after which the teams exited the train and repeated the procedure on the next available train. That's kind of a fun image. But that, I feel like that does kind of imply that one team is always towards the front and the other team is always towards the back. And I really don't know if this is true in Milan subway, but like in the trains in my city, it's generally considered that it is quote-unquote safer to ride in the front few cars of the train, and it is more dangerous and there's more bad behavior in the back few cars of the train, is like generally the sort of like perception. I don't know if that really lines up with my own experience, but I wonder if they accounted for that. I can't have a cat because almost everyone I live with is allergic. When I live alone, I'll adopt. Oh, that sucks. Understandable though. For now, you can content yourself with seeing other people's cats. Visit the cats. Okay. Sample size and statistical analysis. No more than 5 standing people, probably to make sure standing isn't crowded. Yeah. I think it's so standing isn't crowded. And also, like they said, I think it's also visibility. Because, like, Batman's on one end of the train car and the pregnant woman's on the other end of the train car. And a lot of the time, if there's a lot of people standing in the middle of the train car, that will really block your view of whatever's happening on the other side of the car. So they wanted to make sure that, like, people had some reasonable visibility, line of sight to both of the individuals that mattered for this particular study, is kind of what I imagine. Yeah, that's I mean, that's kind of what they're saying here. And I think that's a pretty reasonable statement. Given that the main outcome was dichotomous, whether they offered the seat or not, so dichotomous, 2 outcomes, and assuming a 50% increase in prosocial behavior in the experimental conditions, they were assuming that there would be a 50% increase in people giving up their seat, which is a pretty big effect. A total of 136 observations would provide a statistical power of 0.9, which we usually aim for a statistical power of 0.8, so they're overpowering their study. They are gathering more participants than they think they need. Or than they would normally think they need. They're being careful about it. They're making sure that they have enough people. They don't want to be caught with too small of a sample size. With an alpha level 0.05, standard. A logistic regression. Logistic regression is the type of statistical test you use when you're testing for something with a binary outcome that is 2 possible outcomes. They probably honestly could have done a chi-square here, unless there's something else in here. Very loud, Kibti. This is his specialty. He is very good at projecting his voice. It is something he is very good about, and he is incredibly kind and good and smart. Yes. Is there such a thing as too big of a sample size? Kind of. So there's this thing called the crud factor. The crud factor is this name for this phenomenon that happens where if you have a really, really big sample size, any two variables will be correlated. Like it becomes, there gets a point, especially with things like correlation specifically, because like t-test, like there is, at an infinite sample size, you still need to beat a t-value of 1.96. F-tests with an infinite sample size, there is still like a minimum F value that you have to beat. Correlations, though, it's not really possible to get a correlation of exactly 0, and there's no minimum significant correlation. So with correlations, if I have a sample size of like hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of data points, any two variables that I pick will be correlated. Like at that point, significance testing has zero meaning to it if I get too big of a sample size with correlation. And that's kind of a concern because like at a certain point, like the number of feathers on my head is going to be correlated with the daily temperature in Antarctica in the 1960s or something like that. Like two completely unrelated things will show up correlated if you have enough data. And that's kind of the bad thing because like significance testing is no longer telling you anything meaningful about whether these two things are related. At that point, if the sample size is too big, you pay attention to the effect size instead of whether it's significant or not. Because after a certain point, for certain types of test, if you have a big enough sample size, you'll reject the null on just about anything. But that doesn't necessarily mean it means anything. Is this making sense? Like, I guess that's not necessarily a problem. It's just that the way that you think about your data when it gets big enough has to change. The feathers on your head are insulting Antarctica? Yes, retroactively, through time, before I was born. He's so talented, he is. So I guess there's not really such a thing as too big of a sample size, but also you need to recognize that if your sample size is too big, the way you interpret your data has to change. And the way that you think of statistical analysis has to change. And it's not always clear when you tip over that point, really. But at a certain point, effect size becomes a lot more informative than p-values, is kind of the idea. And I guess too big of a sample size, another problem is like, if you're in a case where you only have limited resources to recruit participants, you don't want to waste participants. Like, let's say I'm doing this study and I got this power analysis that says 136 gives me enough statistical power. And I happen to have the budget for and theoretically I could get 1,000 observations, but I don't have the budget for that. So it is possible to have too big of a sample size, at which point, you are spending money and you're spending time and you're spending resources to gather more data points when it's not actually adding anything to the statistical validity of your study. It's kind of a diminishing returns thing. You don't want to waste resources just for the sake of having a big sample size. If your sample size is enough to test the hypothesis, it's enough to test the hypothesis. Don't strain yourself if you've already hit the point where you have good statistical power. Don't toss away resources. Okay, so sample size can be big, but you can't treat big and small samples the same. Yes. If you have too big of a sample size, wouldn't it pretty much just become the population, which would generally be known? It's very hard to get the population, but yeah, Tyler, it's potentially, the ideal would be that we would get a population, honestly. If we could, the population would be ideal, and we'd want to get that every time, but that's not really possible. But I don't even know what I'm thinking anymore. But usually and it depends on what you're studying. It's a lot easier to get a really big sample size if I'm working with social media data. If I'm looking at posts on social media, super easy to get a big sample size. If I'm doing it on human beings, not so much. The idea is always to get your study on the census, right, Torg? That would be nice. That would be nice. Okay, I need to take a quick break so that I can feed Mr. Kitty. I will return to you in just a minute or two. I'm also going to grab myself some water, but I will be right back. I'll be right back, okay? Don't cause trouble while I'm gone. Don't cause trouble while I'm gone. I'm gonna mute my mic. Okay, let's see what you got up to while I was gone. Do do do. Do do do. Do 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 do. Okay. Alright. Good. Good. We have all behaved properly. Great success. I'm proud of you. Proud of y'all. Cat has been fed. Hope he's less loud now. I don't think that'll have anything to do with it. He still had food left over from breakfast, so it's not like he had nothing to eat. I don't think that's why he was being loud. Alright, let's keep going. Dependent variables, dichotomous. So dichotomous dependent variables do typically require a bigger sample size. Mylin, I might be able to name a tiger shonk. Name recommend. I don't know. I love tiger shonks though. Maybe you could just name it shonk. Shunk. Cat feeding and loudness are independent variables. They're orthogonal. They're unrelated. Oh, I will check. Thank you, Tyler. That's fine. We like hearing him scream. I like hearing him scream too when I don't need it to be quiet, like when I'm streaming or trying to sleep. But he's a kitty. He does what he wants, you know? He does what he wants. I will check after stream. Thank you, Tyler. All right. And the independent variable was experimental condition. Seriously, why don't just do a chi-square? I mean, like, logistic regression's nice, but they could have just done a chi-square. Like, I don't see why this had to be... I mean, odds ratios are nice too, but they could have done something simpler here. Maybe I just don't know enough about, like, the... Maybe they had something in there as well that I wasn't aware. I don't know. Either way, it was approved by their university's Department of Psychology Ethics Commission, prospectively registered on clinical... Does this mean... Is this their word for pre-registered? Got a shiny bell sprout? Any name suggestions? Suzu? That's the word for bell, right? In Japanese, Suzu. Gold leaf? Anyway, model fit and predictive power were evaluated using Nago-Kirk's pseudo R squared, and classification accuracy and odds ratios were used to quantify effect size. Okay. Ikebana? Ooh. Where's Mori? Mori would like that name. Anyway. NEP. True. Given the minimal interaction with participants in the public setting, no consent was required for... So I guess they're making an argument that this was like non-human subjects research essentially, because they weren't actually really... They were modifying the environment people were in, but they weren't actually interacting with people all that much. Meanwhile, I went with stinkers for a Bellsprout. Bobo, please. I guess it does grow up to be a poison. It is a poison type, right? So maybe it is a bit stinky. Right. However, oral consent was obtained from participants who were asked about their reasons for offering. So they did get some form of consent there. And they got a waiver of informed consent because they weren't directly interacting with participants. I think that's alright. Like, would I be able to get that approved? No. But I don't think this is a huge deal. Only 4 more till 500 subs, I know. I know, Astral. And it scares me. Maybe it's just time to stop streaming. Stop posting videos. It's time to graduate. I gotta do it fast. That number is creeping towards 500 real quick. Well, not real quick, but it's going towards 500. It might be time. Oh, thank you, Tyler. Thank you, I'm honored. And terrified. Alright, let's see what the results are. Sorry. We conducted 138 observation sessions, 70 control, 68 experimental. I wonder why it's uneven. Or do they have to, like, drop some or something, or... Cat again, yes, he's over there. He's doing a good job. He's being real fuzzy. Graduate every now and again and come back as Nylan Backmon until it reaches 500, then repeat. leaving a string of 500 subscription YouTube channels in my wake. Starting a new identity every time. That's slightly different. We're currently in V theorem. Maybe I should leave V theorem and go to W theorem, X theorem, Y theorem, Z theorem, A theorem, B theorem, C theorem. You get reborn every 500 subs, it's true. I will disappear when we hit 500 and somebody else will rise from the ashes like a phoenix. Observations were invalidated if the car wasn't full or was too full. And that's true. I just kind of assumed that wasn't... No, they just didn't even start the observation. You get reborn every 500 subs. I already read that. What am I doing? Okay. In the control condition, the chances that a passenger would leave their spot were 37.66%. So without an attention-grabbing event, in this particular case, Batman, it was a little over a third. And people would give up their seat about a third of the time. A little over a third of the time. Well, when Batman was there, they gave it up about 2/3 of the time. The logistic regression model was statistically significant. That's a chi-square! That's a chi-square! Is a chi-square a logistic regression model? I should know this. Gotta get a Phoenix model for your new account, true. Be reborn as every cryptid ever. That's the freaking dream. What is... Sorry, I'm looking into whether chi-square and... Because they're reporting a chi-square value there, but they're doing a logistic regression. And it does seem like they're different. But it's like a fancier... Maybe it's a fancier... It depends on what you're... Whatever. I'm not gonna... I think I need more I need to study statistics harder before I, like, think too hard, look too hard into this. This could be a perfectly fine, logical thing to do. Indicating that the presence of Batman significantly influenced the likelihood of prosocial behavior. That's the whole odds ratio thing. The model explained 11.2% of the variance in seat offering, so that's not bad. So, like, that means there's about, like, 88.8% of the 88.8% of, like, whether people gave up their seat or not had nothing to do with Batman, but 11.2% of the variance in whether they gave up their seat or not did have to do with whether Batman was there. Which isn't big, but it's Not small either. Like, it is smaller, but, like, it's not bad. It's not bad. And that odds ratio is pretty big. The odds ratio, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good odds ratio. And, like, that's a pretty significant increase, I would say. Well, obviously significant. It's medium. Medium? Yeah. I guess it depends on what you're studying. And, like, for a model that only has one predictor variable in there, that's pretty darn good. That's pretty darn good. As shown in Table 1, most of those who offered their seat were women in both conditions. I guess maybe women are more likely to want to help a pregnant woman in group and stuff. The estimated mean age of those who helped was approximately 41 years old in the Batman condition and 42 in the control condition. Probably not significantly different. Qualitative findings. When inquired about the reason for the prosocial gesture, most of the responses in the two conditions referred to the importance of recognizing pregnancy, with some directly referring to social norms, education, and safety. Interestingly, among those who left their spot in the experimental condition, nobody directly associated the gesture with the presence of Batman, and 14 reported they didn't see Batman at all. I must see the table. All right. These sample sizes do feel smaller than I was expecting, but I don't know why. I think it's because I'm bad at math. All right, so total observations. These are the people who did the prosocial behavior. Oh, so they didn't manage to interview everybody who gave up their seat. They tried, it sounds like, but they didn't manage to interview everybody. They missed 9 people in the control condition, and they missed... they missed 9 people in each condition, it looks like. If I'm mathing correctly. Yeah, they missed 9 people in each condition. Out of the 41, 28 were women. Out of the 29, 19 were women. Average age was about the same, but we don't know if that's their real age. That's what the people were guessing their age was. Importance of recognizing pregnancy, that's how many... It doesn't look like there's a difference in the percentage of people who mentioned that across condition. That doesn't look like it's going to be significantly different. Same with social norms, education, and stuff like that. Other reasons, and more than 40% said they didn't see Batman at all, which I think is very funny. What I'm imagining is that, like, when Batman came on the train, there was some sort of commotion because other people were noticing Batman, and maybe the noise level rose, or, like, people were, like, making odd noises, or, like, maybe there was some laughter, and then people looked up, and maybe they didn't see Batman, but they did see the pregnant woman, and they're like, oh, I should give her my seat, kind of deal, is kind of how I'm imagining this scenario. They should have also asked the control group if they saw Batman. I agree, Torg. Well, you know what? Yeah, they should have. They should have. That would have been a better manipulation check if they had also asked the control group if they saw Batman, because it could be that we know that memory is unreliable. We know that memory is unreliable. It's susceptible to suggestion. It is, like, memory's, like, questionable. So... You know what, Torg? I think honestly you are right that they should have asked the control group. And I also really wish that they had asked the people who didn't give up their seat the same interview questions. I really wish that they had done that, but oh well. Until somebody says they did see Batman. No, like, that's exactly why I want them to do it, Tyler. Like, because I do think that some small percentage of people in the control group would still say that they saw Batman. Like, maybe they're not sure, and maybe, like, when somebody suggests that maybe they saw Batman by asking if they did, they might, like... There's probably some baseline level of people who are like, you know, I don't really remember, but I did see somebody wearing black out of the corner of my eye. Maybe that was Batman. Yeah, I saw Batman. Like... I do think that there's some baseline level of people in the people who reported that they did see Batman who probably didn't actually see Batman, or at least didn't register that it was Batman, which is why it would be good to ask the people in the control group if they saw Batman, is kind of the thought, right? All right. This study provides evidence that unexpected events, such as the presence of a person dressed as Batman, can significantly increase prosocial behavior in real-world settings. We found that when Batman was present, passengers were more likely to offer their seat to a seemingly pregnant woman compared to the control. Such Batman effect supports the hypothesis that disruptions to routine can heighten awareness of one's surroundings and enhance sensitivity to the needs of others, ultimately promoting prosocial actions. Our findings resemble prior research linking present moment awareness to increase prosociality. Mindfulness can create context. Tentative interpretation evidence on mindfulness-induced prosociality still emerging. One meta-analysis finds only moderate effects. So other people have studied this in other ways. There is a meta-analysis that has found some stuff that mindfulness might be related to prosociality. Trait mindfulness seems most impactful when coupled with strong... So state mindfulness is how mindful you are right now. Trait mindfulness is how mindful you are just across the board in general. So it seems like just people who are more mindful in general, people who are more, say, aware of their surroundings and stuff in general, are probably more susceptible to this than people who are just happen to be mindful in that particular moment. Strong moral identity is how central your moral beliefs are to your sense of who you are as a person, which I think that makes sense. If you have a strong moral identity and one of your moral values is related to helping others, then it makes sense that would be an even stronger effect, and those things would amplify each other. Unlike traditional mindfulness interventions that require active engagement, the study highlights how situational disruptions alone may be sufficient to produce similar effects. I love this. I love this. Like, mindfulness, I think there's a lot of really interesting research on, like, potential benefits of mindfulness and stuff like that, but, like, mindfulness always felt kind of cheesy to me, which is a very petty thing. I'm not saying that that's, like, a good reason to be kind of, like, about mindfulness. It's a really stupid reason, but it always felt cheesy to me. So I really like that, like, this, I just like silly studies in general, but I really like that this, like, very silly intervention, they were able to find stuff with it, too. This suggests a potential mechanism by which novelty and unpredictability foster prosocial behavior, reinforcing theories that link attentional shifts to increase social responsiveness. And I think it also goes along with a lot of the previous findings in helping literature, like that, like the 5-step model of helping that we mentioned earlier. Let me pull that up. It goes back up to this whole, like, noticing there's a problem and stuff like that. I'm kind of surprised they didn't. I'm not sure if they did. Like, they haven't mentioned it by name, but, like, or, like, the Good Samaritan study and stuff like that. I think all of that is, like, very much... It supports what they're saying here, and I think it all fits together very nicely, is what I'm saying. It's not even just mindfulness, it's just simply awareness. And we've known that that's related to helping behavior for a while, and I think that's, like... And I think that's what they're saying. They're just not referring to this more, like, classic stuff, and they're referring to more recent stuff. Which is fine. That's fine. At the same time, alternative explanations should be considered. For instance, the superhero figure may have increased the salience of cultural values, gender roles, and chivalrous helping norms in line with... Yeah, so this was what I thought they were studying at first when I read this paper. But... like they noted, like, almost over 40% of the people who gave up their seat didn't even notice Batman. Which would suggest that it's not, like, a priming thing, or, like, that it didn't matter that it was Batman specifically. It could have worked if it was, like, a guy in a gorilla suit, or a guy in a T-Rex suit, or whatever. Which I would love to see replications of this, with just people in weird outfits, you know? I would love to see that. More broadly, it's much easier to verify that participants were breaking routine scripts than establish that they were in a state of mindfulness. So yeah, they're saying we don't know if it's mindfulness for sure. It could just be that people were just, huh? This interpretation is consistent with research on how the peak technique, where atypical or unexpected stimuli disrupt automatic responses and increase compliance. More studies are warranted to better... That's kind of what I think is going on here. Just, like, people were surprised something weird happened, and maybe it's not so much that they're more... I guess it depends on how you define mindful, but, like, to me it just feels like, whoa, something weird happened, I'm paying attention now. Extra, please. I've decided not to care about the words per minute until somebody beats my record, and then I'll care about the words per minute. More studies were warranted. A guy in Portland frog suit is a halfway point between gorilla suit and Batman. Valid. Valid. Inflatable frog suits and pro-social behavior. That's a potential fun study. Interestingly, while the data suggests that this perturbation may have a strong effect, that's the effect size, that odds ratio, a notable percentage of individuals were not consciously aware of the reason behind it. Yep. Which is still really fun about, like, I still think that's so fun. Given that attention is socially influenced, e.g. the phenomenon where people instinctively look towards the same point of interest as those around them, so yeah, if people notice that one person paying attention to something, other people will. It's that thing where, like, if you see people who are stopped in the street staring up at the sky, you'll probably also stop in the street and look up at the sky. That was one of Solomon Asch, the guy who did the line study. One of his other studies on conformity was just, like, seeing if like he got 1, 2, or 5 people to stand on the sidewalk and stare at the sky, how many people would stop and stare up at the sky with them, even when it wasn't clear what they were looking at. We can hypothesize that the pattern of awareness triggered by a disruption in routine may be socially transmitted, extending beyond its original. And this is kind of what I was saying. Like, it could be that only a few people in the train car noticed Batman, but their reactions to citing Batman are what drew the attention of everybody else. This may help account for the subset of participants who reported not noticing Batman, but nevertheless offered their seat. Speculative interpretation is that the disruptive effect can operate at interpersonal levels. Shifts in attention or prosocial cues triggered in some individuals may spread socially within the group. I think saying prosocial cues spreading specifically is a bit, like, strong. I think it's just that something attention-grabbing happened, which caused reactions, which grabbed more people's attention, which caused more, like, kind of like it's like an area of effect thing. It's like proximity to Batman. And, like, there's this ripple effect of attention radiating out from the person in the Batman costume. And then people got caught up in it, and even if they can't necessarily see Batman or don't notice Batman, suddenly they're more aware because some part of them registered the other people around them paying attention. You know, that's kind of, that's how I'm thinking about it. I don't think the prosocial cues, like, I don't know what that would be in this scenario. Like, what helping cues are there? I'm not really sure. Influencing behavior even among those who are not directly aware of any initial disruption, consistently with research on the social contagion and interpersonal synchronicity of prosocial and emotional behaviors. The synchronicity research is really cool. I'd love to look more into that sometime. I know somebody who knows about it. Maybe I can ask them to come on the channel and talk about it sometime. That would be cool. These findings contribute to discussions on how public spaces and social interventions can be designed to encourage kindness and cooperation. If unexpected yet non-threatening events can increase mindfulness and prosocial behavior, urban planners, policymakers, and psychologists may consider ways to integrate positive disruptions into life. I wonder if this is so much prosocial behavior. Like, I think this could have increased, like, any type of behavior. I don't think it had to be prosocial behavior. I think they're really drilling down on prosocial behavior, and normally I would say that it's very good to stay very focused specifically on what you're studying, but I feel like this is getting too confident that it's prosocial specifically. I think it's simply that nobody on that train was paying attention. Everybody on that train was, like, locked in on their phone or something. Like, you know, we were talking about earlier, like, everybody on the train was locked in on their phone or something, and then the fact that there was something attention-grabbing is what got people to pay attention, and then they did something that they would have been doing anyway if they were paying attention. Like, it's entirely possible that the reason people weren't giving up their seats in the control group is because they didn't notice the pregnant woman, but when there was an attention-grabbing thing in the experimental group, they did notice, and then they gave up their seat. And they didn't interview the people who didn't give up their seat, so we don't know if those people noticed anything or not, right? Like, it could just be that this is, once again, a problem with the first stage of the 5 steps of helping, where it's just people weren't noticing before. Batman caused some disruption in the area, which made people start paying attention to the things around them. And then they noticed that the woman needed help, or the woman needed a seat, and therefore they gave her the seat. It's not necessarily that this increased prosocial behavior, I think. I think it's more likely that this simply increased just awareness of things going on, right? Which just probably led to prosocial behavior that would have happened anyway if only they were aware, right? They do need to remember that prosocial behavior is the only behavior they were measuring. This is also true. It's the only behavior that they were measuring, at least as far as we know. But I really genuinely do think that it's not the disruption that led to the prosocial behavior so much as the disruption led to attention, which led to people taking actions that they might have taken otherwise if only they had been paying attention. Like, is it possible that we would have gotten the same thing if people at the start of the train were told to pay attention to the other people on the train, or if there was like an announcement saying, pay attention to whether somebody needs a seat, or if just maybe their phone was out of battery that day, you know, like, and they didn't have anything to stare at while they were on the train, would they have gotten the same results is kind of my question. Like, what is the baseline level of helping, assuming that people notice that somebody, I guess in that way there's kind of a confound here, because it's not just a weird event happening between the conditions, it's also attention. For all we know, the presence of the bat might inspire more heroics and villainy. It could be. An announcement would devalue way faster than bat. That's true, Torg. It's so true. Though I have noticed my train line has introduced some new announcements. Like, the old announcements, I cannot even hear them anymore. I'm so desensitized to them. But the new announcements are, like, more notable. And sometimes, like, the automatic announcement system breaks down, and the conductor who's driving the train, or the operator, or whatever you want to call them, will make the announcement themselves. And in that case, because it's a little different every time, you don't get that same, I'm not going to say you don't get the same desensitization, but it's not like your senses are actively tuning it out as much anymore, because it is a little different every time. When, like, it's an actual human doing it, or, like, when they introduce a new format for the announcement or something, then your brain kind of picks up on it. I don't know. I think they might be kind of... I think there's more alternative explanations here than they're giving it credit for. But I think that this was a very nicely done study, and I do think that it was... I just want to know, like, the people who didn't give up their seat, did they even notice her? And we don't know, because they only interviewed people who did give up their seat, right? Like, we don't know if it's... Because I think there's prosocial behavior, and they're treating it like it increased prosocial behavior. But people won't engage in prosocial behavior if they don't notice there's a problem, right? And if you don't give up your seat because you don't notice the pregnant woman, is that the same as not being prosocial, right? And I don't think that is, because, like, maybe you would have been prosocial, it's just you didn't notice that there was an issue, right? I'm not saying they didn't increase prosocial behavior. They definitely did increase prosocial behavior, and that was a pretty big effect size. I just think I think there's a simpler explanation here that's kind of getting tossed to the wayside a little bit. Like, what if there was a routine thing where people were paying more attention? Like, what if you're in an area where people are paying attention more on trains in general? Like, there are some places where the norm is to pay attention to your surroundings on the train, usually because you're worried that that train line or that area isn't safe. But would you see the same effect there? Not because people have been surprised by an unusual event or a guy in a superhero costume, but just simply because you're paying attention, therefore more likely to notice that somebody needs help. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying this is a bad paper, by the way. I'm not saying this is a bad paper. I think that they're leaning a little... I think that they're acting a bit more confident in their personal interpretation than I feel like they should be. But on the other hand, I think that's kind of expected for a Nature paper. At least for me, that feels like a thing that you just would do in a Nature paper. I don't know. And I think the study's good. Like, it's not going to be perfect. No, there's no such thing as a perfect study. But I think the study's good. I think this paper is well written and very easy to read. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Anyway, where were we? Future research should therefore test a range of... It remains unclear, however, whether the observed effect is unique to Batman or would also emerge with other unexpected figures. Yeah, I would love to see this. I hope they do this, or that somebody does this. I want to see this so bad. People should keep doing studies like this. It's so much fun. Future research should therefore test a range of characters or disruptions varying both emotional valence and symbolic meaning to clarify the boundary conditions of this event. So emotional valence is like, Batman's generally viewed positively. What if we do a character that's viewed negatively? Like, what's a really, like, despised character out there? trying to think. Like Mineta from My Hero Academia. I don't think he has the same, like, he's obviously not nearly as famous as Batman, at least in the West, but like, like emotional valence, they're saying like that gives you Batman's more positive. What about a negative thing? Or symbolic meaning? Batman, of course, meaning like heroism and stuff like that. What if it's a figure that means like what if we threw Squidward on the train, like grumpy depression, would we get the same effect? To clarify, future research should explore whether different types of unexpected events varying in emotional valence produce similar effects. So different types of events. Batman, that's kind of like a funny, weird thing, but what if we have another thing that's like scary? Like maybe they pipe a very frightening explosion sound in there, or like a scream or something like that. Or maybe they play like, I don't know, ice cream truck music. Actually, Joker. Put Joker in the train and see what happens. Fair. Controlled lab experiments where these dimensions can be independently manipulated will be, yes, absolutely. Dress up as Squidward. Only if you have somebody with you with a clipboard taking notes and a control group, Tyler, okay? I'm kidding. A further limitation, so I agree, they do need, like, this is very, very high in external validity, and that's what's so great about this study. They did this on an actual subway with actual people going about their normal day. So this demonstrates that this effect can happen in the real world where there's a whole bunch of noise, but because it's done in the real world, there is a lot of noise. So if you want to like cleanly figure out exactly the mechanism that's happening here, yeah, you'll have to go into the lab. A further limitation concerns demographic data. Sex and age were estimated by observers, which introduced the possibility of error. No, yeah. We need to cover the Batman side characters to reduce confounding variables. I feel like the Batman series itself is confounding. Would choreographed Batman Joker fights help or hurt the public transit? This is a great and important empirical question that can be tested. Finally, while we measured an overt behavioral outcome, seat offering, further studies should examine whether these effects extend to other forms of prosociality, such as helping behaviors in different contexts or long-term shifts in social awareness. Though I will say, like, getting a behavioral change is kind of like, I don't want to say it's the holy grail of social science research, but it's like a big thing for social science research. I feel like they're actually kind of giving themselves too little credit for this. Like before, I think they were like kind of like overselling themselves. Here, I think they're really underselling themselves. Like, yes, would it be good to see those other things? Absolutely. But the fact that you found such a big effect on behavior in a natural environment from an intervention that was only like a couple of minutes long max is like wild to me. That's really big, and I think that they should give themselves some huge pats on the back for that, frankly. Like, don't downplay what you did here, guys. Just be proud of yourselves, okay? In conclusion, the study does suggest that unexpected events can increase prosocial behavior by momentarily disrupting automatic attention patterns and fostering situational awareness. And I think this general conclusion is pretty consistent with my own personal interpretation of what's going on here. That tracks, yeah. These findings open new avenues for understanding the environment and cognitive mechanisms underlying prosociality and suggest potential applications for promoting kindness and cooperation in everyday settings, extending the Batman effect to non-superheroes as well. Fun. That was fun. I really enjoyed that paper. How do we feel about that paper? How do y'all feel about that paper? I thoroughly enjoyed this paper quite a bit. Ooh, they have a supplement. Maybe I'll check that out after. But yeah, what do you think? What do y'all think? Good paper? Good paper. Yeah, that was really nice. That was really refreshing after the last paper, which again, like, I don't necessarily have a problem with the last paper outside of, like, I think the writing in the last paper was not appropriate for a scientist. That makes it sound wrong as well. But like, this was just a very fun study, pleasure to read. I wish they'd worn the mask, true. Yeah, but I thoroughly enjoyed this paper, and I hope that you enjoyed this paper as well. Yeah. And thank you. Was it Tyler? Were you the one who gave me the suggestion for this paper? I don't remember exactly who did. I think it was... My brain says it was Tyler or Guy. Yeah, it was Tyler. Yeah. I'm now a grad cap. Hell yeah, Aggie. I'm so happy for you. I hope you're having fun. Did we reach the end of the paper? Yeah, we reached the end of the paper. Sorry, Astral. We reached the end of the paper. But yeah, thank you, Tyler, for the suggestion. If there's ever any papers that y'all want to send my way, please don't hesitate to do so. If it's something like this one where the copyright gives me permissions that I can like read it on stream and stuff, I'll do that. And if it doesn't give me permission to read it on stream, maybe I'll make like a summary video of it, like I did with the BL Fan Brain Scan paper. Where I don't need to show it on stream, but I can like, here's the sort of cliff notes. 21.1 words per minute. Yay, that's not bad. That's not awful. I'll take that. Yeah, but thank you so much for the suggestion, Tyler. Yeah, if any of you have any future suggestions for papers that you want to read or like something that you want to know more about or something like that, just drop it in the Discord on the V-Theorem Discord on my videos and streams channel, and I'll take a look at it and maybe we'll go over it together, or maybe I'll make a video on it. Yeah. Oh, but for now, I think that's all I've got. I'm gonna go play myself some Minecraft, because I deserve some Minecraft. We all deserve some Minecraft. Oh. All right. Take care. Have a great day. And I'll see you maybe sooner than you think. Go mine some grass, hell yeah. All right, bye everybody. Bye.